Hello and welcome back to Superior Synergy Games. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're doing a top 6 deck list for our event that was last night, March 11th. It was the Mishi Monday event that we hold every single Monday. So last night we had 23 players play in our event, and we will go over the top 6 here today. So in first place here we had Fabian Benfante. Very sorry if I'm pronouncing that name wrong. Let's look at their list. So it looks like yesterday they came into this event with a Ruby Amethyst build. And so they went along with the 4 of the Minnie Mouse, always classy as the 1-drop. They went at 3 Teeth and Ambitions, 4 of the Maui, Hero to All, 4 of Madame Medusa, which is interesting. It looks like they went all for the Madame Medusa package and not the Lady Tremaine. I've seen a lot of people split that 2 and 2. Of course, the 4 times Be Prepared. They've got the 4 Maleficent Dragons in here, so they're going for all those high costs there, but it's easy because it is inkable. 4 of the Maleficent Sorcerers. This is an interesting choice. I've seen a lot of people these days drop this down to either 2, and some even cut it completely from the list, but coming in at first place, obviously it worked out for them. They have the Olaf as another 1-drop, so it looks like they've gone down the Olaf mini package. I know some of these Ruby Amethyst these days are running Rafiki instead of Olaf occasionally, so we've got the 2 of the Cusco. That is a pretty normal number there. We've got our Madame Mim package here between the fox and the snake. Our friends on the other side. We've got the 3 crabs. Obviously great to pop over those locations or give that little extra attack. And then we've got our goat and rabbit package, just as you'd expect. And then finally we've got 4 of the Queen's Castle. So it looks like this is actually pretty similar to what you would have seen kind of as a set 2 build. The only big changes here is we got the Madame Medusas popping in here and the Queen's Castle. So some pretty great cards to be adding from set 3. Just giving that extra draw and a little bit more premium removal to get some problem cards out of your way. So obviously that's Ruby Amethyst. So I know we had a couple different Ruby Amethyst the top few places, so we're going to kind of just go over a little bit of the differences between them and kind of discuss them that way. So congrats to Fabian Benfante. I know they've performed quite well in the Mishi Monday events, so coming in at first place, going 5-0, so congrats to them. So second place we've got Mark Landers going 4-1, and let's take a look here at Mark Landers' list. Right here. So again, it looks like they're on that same Ruby Amethyst. I know everyone had kind of gotten sick of it after the other set, but we know it's here to stay. People are winning with it, so be prepared to see a lot more of that list, and no puns intended. So we've got the 4 of the Be Prepared. That's no question. And the 4 of Friends on the other side. Looks like Mark ended up to go with 1 more Cusco than Fabian had gone with, so interesting choice there. Again, we're seeing the 4 of snakes and foxes. We've got only 3 of the Madame Medusa instead of the 4 of that Fabian had. And then we've got the 2 of the dragon Maleficent and 2 of the small Maleficent. So here are some differences here between Fabian's list. Kind of having the dragon and the Maleficents from the other list. So looks like one of the additions that we're seeing that we didn't see in Fabian's list is the Maui's fishhook. I've seen this used quite frequently in a lot of these Ruby Amethyst builds to kind of give that extra power to get over these locations and or just give evasive things. We see 3 crabs here as well. We've got our 4 goats and rabbits, no questions asked there. Looks like they decided to split, go down the middle and go 2 minis and 2 Olafs. So they're the exact same cards, so it doesn't really matter which one you go with. I would assume they have, like I said, they've got Rafiki, so pretty much they're at 4 of the mini or the Olaf, and then 1 of the Rafiki, or 4 of the Rafikis. So a couple different turn 1 plays, and then we've got the 2 of the Pinocchio. I see a lot of people running this now, just being able to exert things, especially if you drop a Rafiki turn 1. And then you can exert your opponent's turn 1 play on turn 2 with Pinocchio, and usually Rafiki can take down almost anything at those low costs just due to that +3 attack with that challenger. So pretty nice there. We see the 3 of Teeth and Ambitions. I believe that's exactly what Fabian was at, and that's pretty standard with these lists. We are going with the 1 Sorcerer's Spellbook. Pretty nice. Obviously, it lets you close out games and kind of put a timer on a match to end the match as soon as you can, especially if your opponent can't respond to it. I know not many people are running item removal right now, so I do expect that to change here now with the Maui's Fishhook and the Sorcerer's Spellbook kind of being so oppressive. We've got the Yzma, 2 of, so obviously a good way to draw yourself some more cards, or when you are in that spot, you can use it to bounce your opponent. I'm pretty sure I saw Mark play this in the mirror match. He was playing against someone who had the 8-cost Ursula out, or 7-cost Ursula, and he had no way to remove it off board, and if he didn't, his opponent was going to win the game, so he ended up using the Yzma to obviously give the opponent 2 cards, but at least get that Ursula off the board, so that he could keep the game going. So we got the 4 of Maui's, of course, and then the 1 of Lady Tremaine. So we're seeing Lady Tremaine not see as much play. It seems like a lot of people favor that Madame Medusa. Fabian obviously not even including Lady Tremaine in their list, but we've got the 1 of here of Lady Tremaine, and we've got the 3 Medusas. So either way, a lot of people are kind of running 4 of those. Just depends on the quantities that each one runs. So congrats to Mark Landers here, coming in 2nd place. So next up, we've got Jamie Campbell, also going 4-1, and no surprise, we've got some more Ruby Amethyst. So it's here to play, and it's here to win these events. So again, we're just gonna kind of see the differences between all of these lists. So again, no questions on these. Be prepared and friends. Looks like Jamie Campbell also has the 3 of Cusco, just like Mark had. So it kind of looks like this card is sitting at that 2 to 3 copies of in a lot of lists. The 4 of Snake and Fox. We've got the 3 of Madame Medusa. So I'm starting to I think we're looking at the exact same list that Mark had played. So we might just have a mirror list. So we're down to the 2 Maleficents of each, the 2 Fishhooks, the 3 Crabs, the 4 Goats. So yeah, it looks like we do have an exact mirrored list. So obviously Fabian took 1st place with their list, but this is another way to go about this Ruby Amethyst. So not much more I can say about this list, as we just talked about it at the last one. So we're just going to move on here. Congrats to Jamie Campbell, though, coming in 3rd place. Obviously tying Mark Landers and just missing out on that opponent win percentage. So pretty much a mirror going right here. So June Choi, and June won our last event last week. I know they won it with Ruby Amethyst. So let's see if June ended up sticking with Ruby Amethyst. And it's Jamie Campbell's. June Choi, alright, and just as we expected, we've seen Ruby Amethyst again, so we're already on top 4, all 4 Ruby Amethysts. So I do see a difference here already. We're going to stick with the Be Prepared and Friends, but we do only see 3 snakes compared to the 4 that we've seen in every other list so far, and only 3 Maui's as well. So June obviously is trying to include some other cards by going down on a few of these kind of important cards, but no problem cutting down on those. We've got our 4 rabbits. Looks like 2 crabs. So a lot of our other lists, I think all 3 of them so far have run 3 crabs. So I see this. It's kind of like Cusco. It kind of sits at that 2 to 3 number. It's inkable, so I know people love it that way. But curious to see where people kind of settle on this number for crab. And in Ruby Amethyst, this is the first time we're seeing the Minnie Mouse Stylish Surfer. The previous 3 lists didn't run it at all, which is really surprising just due to the fact of how good this card was in the previous set. I do think there are some better answers out to it now, especially with the Maui's Fishhook, being able to give your characters evasive to kind of deal with it. So curious to see if this kind of remains as a staple in this Ruby Amethyst list, or if it kind of slowly fades away. But obviously gave June Choi some wins here, going 4-1, so the card obviously works. We've got 3 of the Minnie Mouse, always classy, and then 4 of the Olaf. So it looks like, just like Fabian in 1st place, they decided to kind of not go down the Rafiki package and instead stick with these 1 costs. We've got the 3 of Teeth Inhibitions. I think we've seen that across the board. Every single list has been running 3. I know June likes that 1 copy of Elsa, so obviously probably works well for them. I know they won last week with that same copy, and it had surprised me in that list. So great card, just being able to kind of stall out your opponent or keep them from being able to quest to finish out game while you finish. And questing for 3 is not too bad. We see the Cusco sitting at 2 copies, so no surprises there. Down here we've got the Madame Medusa at 2 and looks like Lady Terrain at 2. So again, we're seeing 4 copies between the two of them, and it's just how people want to spread out, how they like to play, how they want the removal. So both are great cards. I've seen a lot more people obviously lean to the Madame Medusa, but we'll see if where those numbers end up landing between those. So this is the first Ruby Amethyst that we're seeing include Jim Hawkins. It looks like the Queen's Castle is the only location they've got, but being able to drop one of those for free on turn 5 is pretty nice, especially when you're dropping also a Jim Hawkins with it. That's going to quest for 2, and he's going to move right to that location, and either you have to remove Jim or the castle, otherwise there's that extra draw on that next turn. So forget the turn 5 Tragic Beast to draw an extra card. Looks like it's Jim Hawkins and Queen's Castle. So looking at the 2 Maleficent Sorceress, so very great card in 2 Maleficent Monsters Dragon. So looks like the list for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place all put these down at 2 copies, but Fabian sitting there in 1st place decided to run 4 of each. So that's one of the interesting differences I've noticed between these lists. And then finally we're including that 2 of the Maui's Fish Hook. So super great item. I think 2 is a perfect number to run in these lists. You know you're going to find it in the game, and it's inkable if you don't want it. So congrats to June, coming in there at 4th place. So that is our final 4-1 player. Looks like we had 2 players here in 5th and 6th go 3-2. And we've got Simeon Spada. Let's check out their list. Is it going to be another Ruby Amethyst? We'll see. And it looks like no Ruby Amethyst. This time we're finally going to have something different. We've got a Steel Amethyst deck, so makes me curious if we're going to be seeing maybe a Jafar build here. So I do know there's one difference that was made to this deck that was messaged to me before the event even started, so I will cover that, as this deck is not exactly what they had run. They were not able to update it since they had already checked in, but it was before the event had started, so I do have the one change that they made, and I believe they just added 2 cards. So obviously the whole new world is going to be running these steel decks. If the Jafar is in here, it's just going to give that extra way to kind of gather some lore and close out games. So we've got a removal. Along Came Zeus. 2 of is pretty standard. I see some decks run 3 of, but just being that uninkable, especially when you're already running a lot of other uninkables, it can be tough. So we've got our Beast Tragic Hero. That is a no question card in every single staple and every single steel list. There's no reason not to run it. That extra card draw, if you don't deal with it, is just one of the best effects I think in this game. So we've got the Blue Fairy. I'm sure they're running a lot of Floodborn in here to get that extra draw every time they do play a Floodborn. Obviously we've got Tragic Beast. I'd assume we're going to have Tinkerbell and some other fun things in this deck. Jafar as well. So we've got the 1-cost Captain Hook. Great turn 1 play for Steel. And then sets you up for your turn 2 Mr. Smee if it's being run in here. So I think Steel can't really get much better than the turn 1 Captain Hook. It deals with Olaf and Minnie and handles them without dying, so is a great way to kind of keep that Ruby Amethyst player from wanting to quest turn 1 if they're not going to bounce their character. 4 of Friends on the other side, that extra draw, I think if you're in Amethyst, you're going to be running this card. It's probably one of the most powerful cards in Amethyst, and again, it's just a card that every single Amethyst deck has no reason not to run. So getting into more of the removal here, we've got the Grab Your Swords at 3, when we only had the Zeus at 2, so just some damage removal there. And we're starting to see the Jafars here. The Steel Jafar, and then the Dreadnought Jafar. 2 different ways. Jafar here deals with evasive threats. Great if you run into those minis, that turn 3 comes down 2 and can deal with them. And you can even shift into this Jafar if you want, or shift into the larger Jafar. And then Jafar, the snake one, really nice. It's going to be a Floodborn if it's going to trigger your Blue Fairy if you have it on field to draw the card, and then obviously drawing cards when it banishes characters. Really great effects. We only see the 2 of the Merlin Rabbit. Obviously they have realized that they have enough draw in other aspects in this that they were able to go down to 2 rabbits. I'm sure they're trying to keep their inkables and uninkables in check, so that's why that card maybe got the cut. So, and great card when it does come down. So 3 of Mr. Smee, we know that 1-cost Captain Hook is being run, so this just makes your turn 2 so great, being able to quest for 2. Not a lot can beat Mr. Smee coming down so early. We've got our other 1-cost Robin Hood, Beloved Outlaw. Gives you the other option. A lot of people run that kind of 6, 7, 8 1 cost, just so they can make sure they can find something for that turn 1. And obviously later on down here we've got the big Robin Hood that we're going to shift onto and get that draw on that blue fairy as well. So the 2 of the smash, just some really nice removal. Obviously can't sing it, but going down turn 3 you can deal with a lot of turn 3 threats with this. You can deal with Doc, you can deal with Minnie Mouse, just so many of these cards that have just a 3 strength that you can remove. So 3 of the Tinkerbell lets you kind of dig through your deck a little bit, find maybe if they're looking for the big Jafar, this lets them dig a little deeper, as well as shift onto with the big Tinkerbell and play it a lot earlier. We've got our 2 of Yzma, really great draw. I think 2 seems to be the amount that people run of this card. It is forgivable just due to the fact that it's inkable. This card would be terrible if it wasn't just being stuck in your hand, but I think 2 is the amount you'll always see of this card. So our 4 of the big Jafar, really great card. You have 2 different shift targets in it. It's going to draw you cards when you play it, and so obviously you can try and close out games and quest for quite a bit if you can set yourself up with the right combo pieces if nobody removes your big 5 costs or your Jafar. So not much else to say about the big Tinkerbell and big Robin Hood. They're just big shiftable targets that do a lot when they come down the field and can sing a lot of different songs. And then finally we've got the 3 of Rise of the Titans. Locations are obviously becoming more and more of a problem, especially in these Ruby Amethyst decks. They're running the Queen's Castle, and then we've got our Ruby Sapphire decks that are running the McDuck Manor. So locations with a lot of health that need to be removed, so this lets you one-shot them. And then finally, like I said, there was 2 cards that were added to this list. There was two copies of Baboom just to give the extra removal. This was added after the fact. They ran it the entire event, and yep, that is the only change. They didn't take anything out. They ended up just adding it. I think they're at like 64 cards here, so congrats to them on their 5th place finish. And last but not least, we've got Joshua K or Shadox, so going 3 and 2 as well. I do want to give the shout out to Brian Ramirez here, obviously tying with the same opponent win percentage. Once they tied here, it looks like it went to the opponent game win percentage. So it looks like Joshua had played opponents that had won a few more games, but you always do have to give the shout out here to Brian Ramirez coming in and just bubbling out of the prizing. So good shout out to them. So let's see Joshua's list. I know Joshua had placed 2nd last week running a Sapphire Ruby deck, and I'm sure that is no different here today. So we're going to take a look at their list. Just off the start, we're going to look at all of their removal, it looks like. And just like these Ruby Amethyst decks, they're running the 4 copies of Tremaine and Medusa, but splitting it up how they want it. And I bet you this is how you see it going forward, is you see the 3 of Medusa and then just that 1 Tremaine if you need it. This deck obviously is a little more forgivable with a card like this. It's uninkable, having Fishbone Quill and being able to get those uninkables out of your hand, so that you can kind of have a little more choice with the uninkables that they run. So 4 of the Maleficent Dragon, that is no question at all. This deck its goal is to ramp to as much ink as they can and be able to play these big dragons and not be sweating that that's their only card they're going to drop in a turn. We have our 2 of Scar, very similar to Maui. This is a nice field wipe. One cool combo I did see played in here is that there's obviously Popsicles in this deck, and Joshua had used the Scar to attack something and then readied it and used the Popsicle to heal his Scar, and then was able to keep swinging with Scar and take out a few more characters. So just the little interactions that make all the difference. So we've got Maui and Maui's Fishhook. We're seeing this card. I think it's one of the cards that was included in pretty much almost every list except for that Steel list. I know First Place didn't have the hook, but just very great card. Maui, I think, will always be a staple, no matter what the format is. So we've got 2 of the Queen of Hearts Impulsive Ruler. 2 cost, gives Rush. So I would imagine that this can be ink for them. And then this deck, probably with how quick it's trying to ramp, it probably does struggle against some of the more aggro builds. And so I'm sure this just gives them an early answer if they need to kind of deal with some of these low costs when people start going wide and filling the board on them before they're able to hit their Be Prepared. This kind of lets them control the amount of units that are on the field. So we've got the 4 Be Prepared. Obviously they're trying to wipe the field and keep their McDuck Manors up. So that looks like all the red cards. Let's look at the blue. Turn 1, develop your brain. Really great card. You're going to be able to draw and look at what you're going to draw. So Grammatala down here is the exact same card, but in a unit, and then kind of comes down as a body and is inkable. So two really great cards. Lets you dig for the piece that you need to find to maybe win the next turn or take out something that the opponent's playing. Gaston, Intellectual Powerhouse, doing a very similar thing to those two cards, but searching 3 cards. So lots of different ways to kind of excavate into your deck. And if you're a good player and you have the patience to do it, you can get rewarded for playing nice and slow with these and just digging deep into your deck and taking time to think about what you want to find. So we've got the 3 of Fishbone Quill and the 3 of Heart of Tefiti. 2 different ways to ramp. Obviously using both together is really crazy good because Tefiti's not going to be killing your hand at all. Like a Fishbone Quill is, you have to kind of remove cards from your hand, but Tefiti also costs 2 to exert, so it's pretty great to play it after you already have a Fishbone Quill out, and once you've ramped up to enough that you can keep using this Tefiti each turn without feeling like you're missing out on the ink. So 4 of the Hiram. Obviously the draw package with the Popsicle, not a whole lot needs to be said about that. Any blue deck should be running that package because they need to keep up with these Amethyst decks that are drawn with their crazy draws. So you have the 1 of Lucky Dime. This is a game finisher. I witnessed this get dropped down and quested on Gaston, so gets to quest for whatever the printed character that you choose is lore value on your side of the field. So Gaston lets you go for 3. So I think Joshua needed 6, and they were able to quest with Gaston and then drop Lucky Dime and finish out the game by questing for Gaston's lore with Lucky Dime. So pretty great at a 1 or a 1 of. It's uninkable, so you don't want to really run into this one. You don't want it's expensive. But with the amount of digging that this deck has between Develop Your Brain, Gaston, and Grammatala, there's no problem of you to find that 1 copy. You'll generally find it. So we have our McDuck Manor. Pretty great card. It looks like it's kind of taken the place of Bella in this list, and it is a tough thing to get over. If your opponent isn't ready for it, they're not going to have 9 strength to take it out. So we've got our 3 of 1 Jump Ahead. So extra ramp. Obviously you can sing it with the Queen of Hearts. That's a 2 cost in there, or Grammatala. There's a lot of low costs that can kind of sing this and kind of get that value that way and not have to actually spend your ink on it. But pretty standard. And then finally down here we've got the Tamatoa. This is another great target for Lucky Dime, especially if you're stacking out all your Popsicles, all of your Lucky Dime, your Tefiti, all your items in general. So you can maybe get Tamatoa up to 4 or 5 lower on him and then finish game with Lucky Dime. So no surprises there as well. That is a great card. Being the 4 of is a lot, especially with how much it costs, but when it's inkable, you're able to kind of dump it if you don't want it. So really great list here. I watched some really amazing games by them, and they were some very exciting ones. So looks like that is our top coverage here for our top 6. We had the 4 Ruby Amethyst for first through 4th. 5th place we had the Steel Amethyst, and then in 6th place we had the Sapphire Ruby. So congrats to all the players. Thank you all for coming out and letting us keep doing this Mishi Monday every single Monday. So if you have any interest in playing in these events, I will have the Discord link below that you can come join the Discord, come ask us how to get involved. They're lots of fun. They're low entry at $10, and generally we all just have a good community that everyone kind of comes in and has a great time. So hope we all see you out there, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you.